All right, I see it leveling off a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Josie Landers, and I'm an assistant director in the admissions office at Columbia Business School. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by members of our Asian Business Association for our virtual event Meet ABA. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our current students to learn a little bit more about ABA and the student organization offerings that they have here for today.
Perfect. Thank you much. Thank you so much, Josie. First of all, really appreciate everyone's time. We're super excited to talk a lot about Asian Business Association. For me personally, I'm co-president of the club, and I'm super passionate about it. It's my favorite club on campus. So we'll go into that in more detail. So throughout, we'll cover some of the large events that we're hosting throughout the year. But just to kick off, we want to kick off on some welcome and introductions, discuss at a high level what ABA is, and then dive a little bit deeper into Q&A. But yeah, this is a quick photo of us. If you go back one, Kristen, this is a quick photo of us at our board dinner at Kanji Village in Chinatown. We're able to kind of connect on a deeper level and prep for programming for the year. Yep. So as I mentioned, I'm a co-president of ABA. I'm originally from a suburb outside of Philadelphia. Pre-CBS, I worked in consulting for 4 years, primarily focused on technology clients. My summer internship was doing strategy at Uber. And then afterwards, I'll also be doing working at Uber in New York. So I'm super excited about that. I'm also co-president of a basketball club. So if you have any question about basketball, I'm super excited to talk about that. And a fun fact to me is I binge watched 60 plus Korean dramas throughout my lifetime. I'll hand it over to Kristen.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kristen. I'm also co-president with Nick of ABA. So very excited to be here and share more about ABA and what our programming looks like. So I'm originally from Clifton, New Jersey, which is northern New Jersey. Before coming to Columbia Business School, I was working at a consulting firm called Profit, which mainly focuses on brand strategy and growth strategy. Over the summer, I interned at a consumer goods company called Reckitt, which owns brands like Lysol and Mucinex. So worked in marketing on the Mucinex team, which was a lot of fun. And outside of ABA, I'm also on the board of Cocktail and Spirits Club and also was on the board of Gourmet Club last year. So definitely take advantage of all the different clubs here at CBS. And then my fun fact is I have a twin sister, but she is a physician assistant. So very different career paths. And I'll hand it off to Rachel before we get more into what ABA is and what our programming looks like.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I'm a VP of Professional this year. I'm originally from New York, so I grew up here. But before MBA, I was in consulting, economic consulting at Analysis Group. So I was there for about 5 years. And I was working as a generalist, but decided that I wanted to kind of pivot into the healthcare space. So I came to CBS. In the summer, I worked in primary care strategy at Humana, which is an insurance company. And I'll probably be going back this post MBA. And in addition to ABA, I was also part of the healthcare board last year. And a fun fact about me is that I snorkeled in the Silfra Fissure in Iceland, which is like between the two tectonic plates.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for the intros, and we could answer more about our backgrounds during the Q&A session, but we'll get into a little bit about what ABA does, some of our programming and our teams, and how you could get involved if you come to CBS. But this is just a nice picture of all of us at a preschool picnic back in August. So definitely building a community even before school starts. But I'll share a little bit more about what ABA does. So ABA is unique because it covers all facets of the MBA experience. As an affinity group, we're not only here to help you with your professional goals, we're also here to provide a community and a safe place to connect with other people of shared backgrounds. So as I mentioned, ABA is a community to build those lifelong friendships. You're meeting people with similar backgrounds, maybe people from different countries, but we all have similarities because of that culture. So being able to dive into that. Number two is that whatever you're recruiting for, whether that's investment banking, consulting, or even more niche fields like healthcare or consumer goods like I'm doing, we're able to provide those academic and recruiting resources to make sure that you feel really supported and just heard in your journey. And we have a lot of second years and also ABA alumni who recruited for a specific field. So you're able to network with people. And then lastly, we hope to help you create those lasting professional connections. So I think, 5 years down the line, the people who will be your network will be the people who you were friends with at school and at ABA, and also maybe people you network with outside of CBS who were alumni or people in the organization. So I'm just very excited to bring all of this around into a 360-degree experience. And I'll pass it off to Nick to talk more about our community events.
Perfect. Thank you, Kristen. I was on the community team last year, so super biased. I was very appreciative of all the event programming that happened throughout last year. We do have three major types. Community is mainly for smaller groups to build some of those closer connections. So if you could go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about some of the programming that happens. So one of the major ones that we have is Dinner Pod. So think about some of the best AAPI restaurants throughout the city: Chili, Szechuan Mountain House, 886, Dollar Shop, etc. So it's a great opportunity to kind of build connections and relationships throughout the MBA, not just for second years, first years, MBAs, executive MBAs as well, and then kind of get closer on a deeper level. Another cool event that was really fun last year was the Peking Duck event, where we got a bunch of Peking duck and different dishes and was able to kind of connect in a larger community type setting, as you can see on the bottom left. All right. So these are other spotlights of other events that we do as well. We had an event at a club in the city, and then we also had night crawls throughout the Chinatown and also in Flushing as well. I know we have done a bunch of programming this year that's expanding kind of the food and beverage portion, as you can see focused here, but super excited to kind of have more events and kind of get closer to the community in these smaller group sessions. Last slide, Kristen. So this is the portion of our programming that we're most excited about. So this is basically what we call family pods, and think of it as we have a couple second years that are leading a family pod group of like 10 to 15 people. And I think it's super exciting because it allows us to kind of create some natural, regular hangouts. And the nice thing about these family pods, it's usually very diverse, very eclectic as well, to kind of organize some casual get-togethers for second years, first years, MBAs as well. And then this is also a great opportunity to kind of share advice. So second year sharing advice to first years, and then also just talking about some of the favorite restaurants that you want to try out in the city as well. This year we have a fun program called Family Pod Bingo, where each space basically has a different initiative that you can do together. So for example, get boba together, play a board game together, and the goal, of course, is to kind of achieve bingo or get as many scores as possible. So I think family pods in general for me has been super meaningful. I had my first family pod meeting last night, which was super awesome. But here are some photos of some family pod events that we've had prior. That being said, I'll hand it over to Rachel to talk a little bit more about our professional programming.
Thank you, Nick. We realize that a lot of our ABA members and even alumni go on and do really awesome things. So we do try to bring them back to campus and try to provide as many support to our first years and second years as possible. So generally speaking, we host 3 different types of events. The first one is industry speaker panels. So our board is kind of in a really great position to be to have a really strong network across the city. So we bring in a lot of awesome speakers to really talk about their experience in getting their businesses started and what it's like to be a minority in different industries. So most recently we brought in the founder for Xi'an Famous Foods, and that was an awesome event that we host. Kristen also was a VP of professional last year, so let me know if you want to also chime in as well.
I'll just say it's just a fun way being in New York. I know Columbia is unique where we get to access to people of different industries who could just come to campus and take the subway. So just a very exciting place to be in business school. And yeah, Rachel, I'll let you go ahead and talk more about professional.
Next slide. The second sort of event that we try to host is recruiting support. So last year we brought in MDs and a lot of senior executives at top consulting, tech, and banking space to really talk about their route and how they've gotten to where they are today. We also provide exclusive mentorship pods to our members, so we can connect first years and second years and their sort of their journey as they were looking for internships and what their internship process actually kind of looked like. And the last support that we provide is in the classroom. So every fall and every spring, we do try to host a course matching tip session. This is mostly for electives. So as first years kind of navigate switching from the core into the elective side, what it kind of looks like and what our second year's like favorite classes are. Another thing that we're kind of planning is launching a networking database. So including all the alumni, second years, like places they've worked in before, where they're going, so you can have their contact information and reach out for coffee chats if needed.
Great. Thanks, Rachel, for recapping professional events. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about our social events. So Nick mentioned how we do have those smaller group hangouts to form those connections, but we know that there are a lot of people at CBS and ABA. We have almost 300 members in ABA, which is very exciting. We definitely want to hold space for larger scale events where we get to celebrate some holidays and also get a chance maybe to meet people outside of ABA and bring them into the fold. So I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. So we mentioned this in the beginning of the presentation, but every year before we start school, we host a mixer before classes start, so you could really get a sense of the type of people at CBS and who you might meet at ABA. So that's just a great way to get to know some familiar faces. And also in the beginning of the year, we know that it's very overwhelming with meeting a lot of new people. So we definitely try to plan events where you're meeting potential members of ABA and learning more about the club and the value and benefits of joining the club. So there's ample opportunities to meet people who aren't in your cluster and who aren't in any or other clubs, because CBS is a pretty big place to be in. So getting those connections is really important. Next, we're very excited that we can host bigger celebrations around holidays and events like this. So actually Halloween is on Friday, but we had our big Halloween party last week. But I'll talk a little bit about last year. We had our own Halloween party within ABA, which is very exciting to be able to celebrate that with people within the club. But last week, we also had a bigger Halloween celebration where we partnered with the Black Business Students Association, the Retail and Luxury Goods Club, and Snow Sports Club for an even bigger celebration. And it's just a really great way to meet other people on campus beyond ABA and just elevate ABA within the community. So just really excited to be doing more events like that in the future with other clubs, and also just bringing in people outside of ABA because we have a lot to offer, not only just as members in the club. And then we know that Lunar New Year is obviously a big celebration for our culture and our heritage. So we're actually deep in planning our Lunar New Year celebration for January and February when we come back from classes. So last year we collabed with the Greater China Society for a big event at a restaurant. It was great food. It was just great meeting a lot of people and celebrating the start of the new year. So very excited to do that again in the next few months. But that's just a recap of social. So I know we talked a lot about ABA and types of programming that we have, but would love to open up the floor for questions. And Nick, me, and Rachel could answer any questions that you might have around CBS or ABA or what it's like being a student here. And this is just a picture of us at Club Day. You'll have a chance, if you come here, to meet the different clubs, see what clubs you want to join that align with your personal preference.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing a little bit more about ABA and all the different types of events you have. I hope that your Halloween one last weekend went great. If you have questions for our members of ABA, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. I do want to note that we will be holding an optional admissions breakout in about 30 minutes. So if you have admissions related questions, you can save it for then. But in terms of the MBA experience or the experience in ABA, I know our students are more than happy to dive into those.
And one thing I forgot to add that is you can take a leadership position at any of the clubs. So Rachel, Nick, and I are all on the board of ABA. So you could be a general member where you could go to events, but if you actually want to plan events and really have a lot more ownership and impact, you can be an AVP during your first year or a VP during your second year. So that's also a great way to get more involved.
All right, I have a question in the Q&A box about when when you can start joining ABA and what the process to join looks like.
Yeah, happy to cover that. So basically all clubs on September 10th or so open a roughly a month timeline where you can sign up for ABA at that point. But before even September 10th starts, we have some of those intro events that Kristen mentioned, such as the picnic, etc. But in order, if you're excited to get involved as a first year as an AVP, you can definitely support and kind of support some of the programming that happens at ABA, and that application opens quite soon after Club Day signups open up. So it's roughly around mid-September timeframe. We give around a couple weeks for individuals to kind of submit applications through there. Hope that helps.
And I'll add to that, Nick. During the application process, we're really just excited to hear more about your passion and interest in ABA. But I think the most important thing is what ideas can you bring to you or ABA? We just mentioned a lot of programming that we have. We're in the heart of New York City. You could bring in as many people you want from different backgrounds. So I think you'll hear from admissions clubs are the lifeblood of CBS, which is very true. And you get a lot of ownership into the direction of the club and what events. So we're really looking for that passion and that interest.
Awesome. And I have another question that's kind of application related, and it's, how do apply for leadership positions? How does that process work? And what kind of leadership positions are available in ABA?
Yep. So we usually send a Google form out once club signups open, especially when you come to the table and you submit your email that you're interested in to applying for AVP or just being in the club in general. And we have 5 major roles. So the major ones that we have, as we mentioned throughout the presentation, social, community, and professional. And we usually have our largest footprint of AVPs in those roles, especially because of the amount of programming that happens throughout there. But we also have finance and marketing roles, which has a lesser number of people, but very important roles that are instrumental to the success of our own organization. So if you follow us at CBS, ABA as well on Instagram, you can get a little taste of the different marketing flyers that we have throughout the year. We're super excited to share or answer any more questions regarding that as well. But those are the 5 major roles that we have available.
Awesome. Someone asked, what advice would you give to someone hoping to contribute meaningfully to ABA from day one?
I could go, but I'll also give Rachel a chance to answer because Rachel was on board with us this year. So I think she also has a unique perspective, and Nick and I.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. So last year I was just a member, and then this year I became a VP of professional. So as a member, I was able to attend a lot of the events, but I wasn't in the loop about how the different events are being hosted. So I was able to bring in some additional insights as a member. And as a member, I thought there were different areas that we can improve on this year. So that was an area that I kind of tapped into during the interview process.
I would say for me, I would identify any personal professional interests that you might have and see how you could blend that with ABA's programming. So for me, used to work at a nonprofit called Welcome to Chinatown based in New York. They support Manhattan Chinatown businesses. So I was working with a lot of restaurants and small businesses in the area. And coming to CBS, I knew that I was maybe interested in a career in consumer goods or food and beverage. And I wanted to kind of blend that interest with my nonprofit with my professional goals. So I was able to bring restaurant owners to campus, CPG owners of Asian American brands to campus. So I feel like that was a unique way to contribute and kind of blend my own personal interests. So we're all a little bit different. So being able to do programming, which we think is unique and also taps into the uniqueness of the New York City ecosystem.
Awesome. Thank you both. I think, that really is such great advice about blending what you're interested in and also the gaps you identify or ways, as you're going through the process of how you think you can make an organization even stronger and applying that later. Someone is asking, would you say it's difficult to balance the curriculum with actively participating in ABA and the other clubs that you mentioned, like, Gourmet Club or, other ones as well?
I would say, I think obviously the core curriculum is very intensive, but one thing you'll hear talking to many students, and I'm sure admissions mentions this as well, you just need to prioritize what's important to you and what you want to do at CBS, what you want to get value out of. So I knew when I was coming to CBS, I was very focused on joining ABA, joining Gourmet Club, doing that programming while also being involved in other things as well. So I think it's always challenging, right? Coming to school, being a student when you haven't been a student in a while, but I think it's very doable if you're very passionate about ABA and the clubs that you're in, because I think a lot of it, what you'll see is people are very motivated to join clubs and put on this programming because it's very personally valued to them and professionally of value to them. So I think if you find the right balance and you're really passionate, you'll make it work and it'll be easy. Nick, as co-presidents, Nick and I, we were talking about how busy it is, and Rachel also as a VP on the board, but it feels less like work because we're so excited about it and want to create that community. But I'll let Nick want to add.
Yeah, but I think the other piece is where I feel like ABA is my closest friends as well, and we're always just trying to support each other at different events. And just to re-answer one of the questions earlier about how can you contribute meaningfully, not if you just have professional expertise as well. I think being there at different events, showing that you're excited as much as you can as well, and then being involved in the planning process for other people that are managing their own events as well. So just wanted to kind of add that.
Amazing. Thank you both. This is a question for all three of you. What was ABA's most memorable event for each of you and why?
I can kick us off. So last week we hosted a Halloween party that we kind of talked about. So it was co-hosted with a lot of different clubs, BBSA, which is Black Business, and also the Snow and Ski Sports Club. And it was a really fun event because you can see a lot of people with different backgrounds just like having fun on a Thursday night, but also because I know the ABA board members who were really involved put a lot of time and effort into it. So it was a really good time to see like one event coming to fruition, but like while working with different clubs and different people who are involved in different things as well.
I would say my most memorable event of this year, or I guess this semester, we had a celebration for Mid-Autumn Festival maybe earlier this month or around a month ago. And it was just such a fun event to get together with first years and second years and celebrate the festival while also meeting new people because it's still early in the school year. So I think opportunities like that to mingle and get to know people who you're not as close with, or as a second year, we're just meeting a lot of first years for the first time. So I thought that was a lot of fun. So that makes me very excited for Lunar New Year because I think that would be very similar, but maybe with on a larger scale and a collab with another club.
Yep. So switching gears a little bit, my most memorable event for me was when we had the CEO of Shein Famous Foods come last week. A big reason why is basically Shein Famous Foods is a very popular Asian noodle dish restaurant that has 18 locations in New York and is expanding outside in Boston and DC. The reason why I love them so much is I eat their food on a weekly basis, and to see the CEO even before we even started the event, looking at the catering situation, just managing the sauce proportions and the quality of the food because they're very early in the catering process, or at least some of the first early catering events that they've had. It was super inspirational to me to hear about his story, Jason, and being able to understand his focus on quality and how he's expanding his business in more detail. So that was super memorable for me.
Awesome. Thank you all for those great examples. And it made me think of another question I want to ask, which is, um, have you seen any examples where ABA has collaborated with the Phillips Pathway for Inclusive Leadership on events, and like what kinds of examples of events you've co-put on?
Definitely. So actually, the event that Nick was putting on last week was a PPIL event. So when
Awesome.
we bring a lot of founders or executives to campus, we think about how important their Asian identity is to them. Because I think, right, when you run a company or you're starting your own business, your identity is very intertwined with kind of the path that you're pursuing. So we make sure to ask insightful questions around how their identity has shaped their career, their roles as a company. So last week was an example of that. We're actually bringing in 2 or 3 restaurant founders next week, and that will also be a PPIL event. So knowing that a lot of these people, right, have these unique identities. So we're also actually, and this might answer another Q&A question in the chat, we're also having an event that is kind of a volunteer event. There's an organization in Chinatown called Part of Dinner, which I think provides food to a lot of elderly people in Chinatown and surrounding communities. So we're actually designing lunch bags for them. So we're going to get together and design those lunch bags. We'll talk more about, what it's like to contribute to the community, and we'll ultimately send those bags to the organization. So we are trying to figure out more ways to integrate and engage with the community as well.
Great. Thank you both. I see a couple questions that are related to the membership of the club and who is involved. I know earlier you mentioned that there's representatives from different programs as well, like EMBA, and of course you can be part of this club whether you start in August or January. But I was curious too, do you see students who are just from the United States, or do you see students from all over the world? What is the makeup and the leadership makeup look like as well?
Yep, so happy to jump in here. We have a super diverse in terms of domestic and international students as well. So East Asian, Southeast Asian, everything you can think of as well. I'm also happy to know that we have MS students and EMBA students as well that are also part of ABA. So a little bit diversity in terms of the type of program. We also had an increase of roughly 70% of ABA members this year, which we're really very happy about. And that also just comes to show from a leadership perspective, to answer your first question, Joyce, or your second question, excuse me. Our board is also very diverse from different places, Korea, China, Japan, etc. So I think it lends to a lot more fruitful conversations and a lot more diversity of programming that makes ABA a lot better. So just wanted to highlight that.
Mm-hmm. And I'll add to Nick's answer. So we do have people from different programs who participate on the board. We have someone who's J-term, someone in the MS MBA program, which they come in as J-term because they start with engineering school. We have someone in the MS program as well, the marketing program. So we also hope to open up board positions when J-term starts, open up a few positions for them because we know they get a later start date. So we definitely are thinking of ways to integrate different programs into our board and also into our community as well. And there are already existing people from the program.
Awesome, thank you. Um, I see a question in the chat that I'm gonna quickly cover, and I'll let you all expand on it if you have other points to add. But I see someone asking, does ABA support prospective students during the application process? And I would argue yes. We have a lot of ABA members in our Hermes Society, which are the student ambassadors. So if anyone would like to connect with those members, you can find their information on our Contact a Student page on our website and filter by ABA. We're really lucky to have such wonderful representatives of the community, giving back and sharing information about what their experience was like applying to. I see a question that says, I'm interested in founding a food-based consumer business in the future, and it seems that a lot of the panels feature food entrepreneurs. Is this a strong focus in ABA, or is there a variety of industry throughout the year and throughout the events?
I could answer this. So I would say there's definitely a variety. I would say mainly in the past year, there's been a strong focus because I was doing a lot of that programming and that's my personal interest, but we've had different people with different interests put on their own events. For example, we had someone with a background in media and entrepreneurship bring people from the media world and the entertainment world to campus last year. We're also thinking of bringing some beauty co-founders to CBS as well. So because the board is made up of a lot of people with different interests, we hope that each board member will kind of bring their own passions and their interests to the events. And we're also thinking of, other people on board may have a healthcare background or just different backgrounds. So we definitely make sure that we try to have a diverse slate of programming to really appeal to the interests of all our members.
Cool. I see a couple questions that are related to recruiting and professional support in different ways. So, um, someone else is asking kind of how you and your own experiences balanced recruiting with club membership in your social lives. And then I see another question about, how does the club also support for different career opportunities as like in Asia as well? I know that was a two-parter question there.
Yeah, so in terms of managing social life and professional, I think the nice thing about ABA is a lot of the time, from a planning perspective, you're collaborating with teams. So that means you have 4 to 5 people, and so say for example, you're in a busy recruiting process. I have consulting cases that I need to go through as well. I have interviews that are coming up. Another person is on a different timeline and they're more free. So I think that gives flexibility in terms of the planning of some large events, and people are very understanding as well. I think we manage it quite well. Obviously, we're very busy people as second years, even as first years as well. But I think this is one of my own philosophies: is you definitely prioritize things that are really, really important to you. So I definitely try to spend the time to ensure that I'm attending the ABA events, supporting my team members as well, while managing the academic rigor that happens throughout an MBA process. From a social perspective, there's a lot of social events that happen throughout the weekend. So obviously, I don't say yes to every single thing, but prioritize the ones that I feel very excited about, and then also looking to kind of meet new people as well. So that's a little bit about kind of how I personally manage it. But yeah, Josie, can you remind me the other question, by the way, that you
Yeah,
asked?
I see a question that's about, how ABA supports students who are looking to work in Asia, either, during their internship or um, during, the full-time offer for after graduation.
Got it. Got it. I can quickly touch on that, but please, Kristen, Rachel, jump in. We definitely have Asian second years that have worked specifically in countries throughout Asia as well. And they also bring us to kind of connections of these are individuals like, for example, in Dubai or like China, where you can kind of meet different companies. We also have different treks, and we collab with other clubs like GCS, which is Greater China Society, Taiwan Track as well, where there's opportunities kind of meet companies and network your way there. But yeah, feel free to jump in if I'm missing
Yeah,
anything.
I'm happy to jump in. So I think it's like two different ways as well. The first thing is that we have like a network and repository. So we have all the second years and first years who have worked in different industries and different companies and different countries. And so you can just kind of like control F and see like what like where people have worked before and like where people are going after. So that's like one good way to look at it. The second one is like the mentorship pods that we have. So we try to get a lot of like second year volunteers to really just dedicate a couple of minutes of their time to host unofficial mentorship pods and like ask me anything sort of sessions. So you can like pick the industry that you want and you can kind of filter to see like where people have worked before and just kind of like join that circle to ask them questions, and you can just kind of network that way as well.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about how many different areas of support you have for students, especially on a professional basis of from treks of going to Asia and meeting with companies to getting in small mentorship pods and getting that really one-on-one time. Um, I'm going to ask this question for all three of you, and it can be ABA related or you can expand it more to your whole MBA experience. But what has been the most surprising thing to you about your time at Columbia Business School?
I can kick us off. I think one of the like quote unquote fears that I had before joining CBS was that like it's just a really big school compared to other schools out there. So I was just never sure if I would like find the right group of friends. But because it is so large, I do think there's a lot of people who share your interests, your backgrounds, and ABA was one of the ways in which I found a lot of my core group of friends, even though I was a member. So I think as long as you are putting yourself out there, you will always find different opportunities to meet new people, to network, and really find your core group of friends that you will really need during the recruiting process because it can be really tough.
Yeah, for me, I was surprised by how involved CBS can be, especially when you're included in clubs and whatnot. I think last year, Kristen and I had a conversation at the Killington ski trip that we should run for president for ABA. We're super excited to see how we can grow ABA. We see a lot of opportunities where we can improve it as well. So I think when we were going into second year, we didn't really understand the full extent of the amount of workload it would be to be co-president of a large student organization. But as Kristen mentioned, it just feels like like one of the best jobs that I've ever had. Obviously, I don't get paid for this job, but I actually truly enjoy this more than almost anything I've done. So every single day is just a blessing, especially because of how great our board is as well. So I think a pleasant surprise for me is being ABA president, despite the workload, despite how everything can be during challenging times when we're organizing events. But it's been the most meaningful experience of my life, honestly.
Mm. I definitely agree with everything Nick and Rachel said, but one thing that surprised me was just the diversity of the student body and the people you end up being friends with. So I think around half of CBS's student body is from other countries outside of the US. And then you within that, there are so many people from different backgrounds. I have a friend who is a teacher and, friends who were in the army. So it's just crazy, like the people you start to build connections with. And I think CBS is such a unique place where you get people to meet people from different backgrounds and become friends with them through club events, through class, through the cluster. So CBS really provides those ways to build your community in whatever way you want to. And whether you're joining ABA or other clubs or getting involved with your cluster, you'll definitely be set in like meeting a really close group of friends and feeling like you're supported throughout the whole process. Because it is very chaotic in the beginning, but once the dust settles, you just see how many great people are around you.
Thank you all. I think those are all really wonderful reflections, and it's great to hear that all of you have felt really connected to other people during your time here. I have a question in the Q&A box that is asking if we could hear a little bit more about the treks that you mentioned earlier. If we could expand on what some of the memorable treks that have been hosted in the past, as well as what kind of, international education exposure have you had, or are there opportunities to at CBS?
Yeah, I'm happy to quickly jump in. So I don't know if this counts specifically as a trek, but I actually had an Asian Business Association house for spring break earlier this year. We went to Chamonix, France, and Tomorrowland, the EDM festival, which was a super cool experience where we would like ski in the French Alps together and all connect on a deeper level in our Airbnb, which was super awesome. I know a lot of us are going to Vietnam as well for the trek that's happening in winter break too. And then we also had, where I mentioned previously, we had a Killington ski house. I think all of us got a lot closer, and I think that was the marquee event where we connected on a lot deeper level, which was super exciting.
Mhm.
In terms of like international treks, one trek for me that was I think really fun is the Columbia, the country trek. So basically 350 students in Columbia. A big portion of ABA was there as well, just to make sure that it's relevant. But I think that was a super meaningful trek. There was a lot of professional events, social events, where we were all able to kind of connect together and celebrate the great first year that we had.
Mhm. Yeah, just to add to that, I think as a club, we do more, I guess, domestic trips. Like Nick said, we had a house for Killington, and we're thinking about what else we could do in the future. But a lot of us meet people in ABA, we become friends with them. We actually do international travel together. So Nick went to Mexico City a couple weeks ago. I went to Morocco with a bunch of people in ABA. So I guess they're more like informal treks where you're doing a lot of trips with people from ABA and outside of ABA. Your cluster might do some trips. A lot of other clubs, like the Brazil Club or Snow Sports, they do a lot of treks and trips to certain places. So there's like ample opportunities to go travel internationally if you want to, or if you just want to do it with a smaller group of people within ABA, that's very feasible too.
Awesome. I'm impressed. You mentioned almost all the continents over the course of those, so really incredible opportunities there. Um, I'm going to ask you all three of you one last question before we pivot to next steps with the optional admissions breakout. But I would love to hear, what kind of advice do you have for prospective students? I think a lot of the people in the audience are either applying round one or round two, so it's really top of mind. When you look back on your own experience, what advice do you have for these applicants?
I could go first. I would say I have two pieces of advice. One is to prioritize and really define what you want coming out of business school and what you want going into business school. I think it's very easy to get lost. There's so much stuff going on, and you try to do everything. But to order to make the most out of your MBA experience and really maximize your short 2 years here, understand like what career you want to pursue, the types of clubs that you want to join, or what you really want to prioritize. So that will help you just really craft your MBA experience to your personal and professional interests. And then number two, I would say just be open-minded with everything, the people that you meet, the classes that you take, the trips that you want to go to. CBS has so much to offer. And I think, a lot of us come to school maybe with, certain expectations or visions of who we'll hang out with, who we'll meet, what that experience looks like. But I would say be open-minded, try to go to as many things as possible, and just meet as many people as possible, and you'll probably learn a lot of things about yourself and just also about the MBA experience that you wouldn't have otherwise.
I can go next. I think for the application process itself, it's really important to be like kind of like what Kristen said, like be very specific about the goals you have post MBA. Like the essay that I wrote for CBS has kind of been like my North Star through the recruiting process. There's a lot going on, like consulting and banking kind of kicks off right after you start. And there's a lot of people who kind of are like, oh, like, should I do consulting because everyone else is doing consulting, even though I came here to do tech or healthcare? So it is really easy to fall into that to fall into that mindset. And it's like no one's fault, right? But it's like because half of the class is doing this recruiting, you just kind of fall into it. So having a really clear guide as to like why you came to MBA, like what you wanted to achieve, I think is going to be a really useful resource for you as you kind of step through the next 2 years of your life.
Yep, and then I think for me, it's a very rigorous process. Especially I forget it now, but I do remember the moment. It was really challenging. So you're also applying to considering schools across the board, GMAT, essays, etc. So I think one thing to keep in mind is spend time with your family, friends, and just make sure that you get some time off as well to kind of resurface yourself as well. And I think for me, sometimes I can get nervous, especially when I'm going to like a CBS event or kind of these admissions events. I think the nice mindset that I have is I'm nervous because I really care about it. And I think that gave me a little bit more confidence when I went into it. And I think one final advice I'll say is a big piece is from an interview perspective. It's really important to kind of show off your personality in addition to the qualities that are desired from Columbia, like being very professional, contributing member to different extracurriculars as well. But I think it's really important to put a smile on your face, be very enthusiastic, which is something that for me personally, sometimes I miss when I'm practicing for interviewing. That happened earlier last year during the recruiting process. So that's something that I always keep in mind to be myself and let my personality shine.
Absolutely. I think those were all really important pieces of advice. And I definitely second being authentic to yourself as possible. We want to know who you are, and um, it's in, as Rachel was saying too, it's an investment on how you navigate the MBA experience itself, and knowing what you want to get out of it and how CBS can help get you there. So I just dropped the admissions breakout link into the chat so you can download that PDF, and I will meet you there. In the meantime, I want to say thank you so much to Kristen, Rachel, and Nick for taking the time to share more about the Asian Business Association today. It's a really special club on campus and really amazing opportunities that support students socially, professionally, networking wise, and it's been really wonderful to hear more about it. They are going to go to class now. They have lots on their schedules, as they've said. But if you want to meet me in the breakout room for questions about the application. I'm happy to answer. If this is where you're going to cut it off, thank you so much for attending, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Yeah, really happy to talk about ABA.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate all your questions. If you want to learn more, you can follow us on Instagram or find us in the Hermes Society. So good luck with everything.
Thanks, guys.